Hello and welcome back to another episode of Media Munchers. I'm Mathian.
And I'm Adrian.
And we've had a little break, but we're back and we're going to give our thoughts on Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So getting right into it, I have a ton of little notes from when I saw it a second time, just all the little things that I enjoyed. But overall, let's do some broad strokes here. I want to say, building up to this movie, I even told you this when we saw it the opening day. I didn't even know it was coming out. Like, I knew it was coming out, but I didn't know. I was like, oh, that's this week? Like, I feel like, to me, I dodged a lot of the advertisements. I didn't see much of the trailers. I didn't go out of my way to see them, and I didn't see them on TV. And I mean, granted, I don't watch much TV anymore, but even online or whatever, like on YouTube or whatever. Were you following it closely? Because I know you didn't seem to have a desire.
I didn't have like a high interest because of the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't what I would have liked out of that movie. But
Right.
Going into this one, I still kind of followed it, but yeah, it did feel kind of like quiet coming to it.
Yeah, like its arrival was just kind of like, here it is. You know what I mean? So it wasn't too loud, and probably for better reason, only because I mean, maybe the marketing had something to do with COVID or not, but whether it did or didn't, the execution was better in many ways than the first one, but also it had its flaws, and we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
Just broad strokes. When the movie started, one thing that I wrote down that I thought was funny was that I thought that Woody Harrelson's character voicing his younger self was a little off-putting.
Yeah, that was weird.
I was like, I get we're supposed to, like, the dumb audience is supposed to put them together, but I'm like, was that necessary? Like, that was kind of dumb.
You think it would have been better had they found a younger voice actor or not voice actor, but somebody that looked more like him and maybe sounded more like him, or
That's a good question. I think it
you
would have
think
been
they
more.
should've, like de-aged him?
That would have been a little off-putting to me. Because, I mean, Woody Harrelson, not to be rude, how old is he, like 50,
I
60?
think
He's up there. He's up there.
Yeah.
So, I don't think de-aging would have worked. I honestly didn't mind if, like, not to be rude, but, like, if they just close enough, right? Like, I didn't think that actor looked really like him, but it sounded like him, and I think it's what happened. They settled. They're like, yeah, we'll just put his voice and make him younger, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
That was just one thing that kind of put me off. I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but I like Mulligan being the one who shot her eye, and so, like, they tied them together. I didn't expect him to have so much history with her, with Shriek, at the beginning.
Right.
But yeah, he's the one who shot her eye out or whatever. He thought he killed her. I like how they're casually skirting because of, like, this whole arrangement. Like, Sony's kind of skirting around the word mutant because they're like, well, she just has powers. Deal with it. You know what I mean? They can't say anything. And I was like, all right. I was like, okay. But I knew it was going to be a problem later on down the road when I found out. I was like, okay, she has sound powers. Everyone who knows anything about Venom or Carnage, any of the symbionts, they don't mess with sound or fire. So I was like, that's going to be a problem.
Right. Yeah. Was that something that they played with in the first one?
The sound? I think they did once. It's been so long since I've seen it, but I think it was the big fight at the end by the docks or the shipyard. Didn't they have, like, explosions or something happening? Was there a rocket launching or something that made them upset?
Yeah. They were
like,
on some kind of giant platform.
There's some huge, like, SpaceX platform or something. But yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I like how they changed the wig up from the first one.
Yeah, they did.
The Carrot Top wasn't doing it for me. It just didn't look right
Oh,
on
no,
Woody
he
Harrelson.
still had red hair, didn't he?
He did have red hair, but it wasn't like curled anymore. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
more like this kind of scruffy, like, I don't know,
It
office
looked
hair.
more real, but it still kind of looked
Off-putting.
off-putting.
And did they digitally tune up his blue eyes? Like, I know this guy has blue eyes, but they were like piercing, like
Yeah, maybe.
ocean blue. I was like, what
Yeah.
the? Okay, they're really going for that. Not that it matters. Let's get back to the movie. I like the commentary. Venom's commentary works most of the time. Like, it was kind of like a little jarring to get back into that headspace where he's just kind of commenting, like the schizophrenic kind of voice in your head thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, oh, what a dick. I loved it. Venom's photo memory drawing skills are crazy. I like that for his abilities. I really like his perfect recall. Like, that makes him a great detective. I wish it wasn't under investigation so that him and Eddie Brock could be more competent, right?
Yeah.
But going into that, I thought it was weird that what is Carnage's Woody Harrelson's character's name? Is it well, it's not Morgan. It's yeah, I know. Thought I knew it too.
Cletus Cassidy.
Cletus Cassidy, there we go. So I was like, how is Cassidy, what was his big, like, idea with getting Eddie back on? Like, he really thought that his one true love, Shriek, was out there and that he could talk to her through newspapers. First of all, how does he know she's getting newspapers? Second of all, Eddie Brock, like, he's going to make him report even though he's disgraced, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I was like, how is he going to... It didn't seem like... This plan just seemed, like, too coincidental. And then, like, he gets pissed when Eddie Brock outs him. Like, when Venom figures out where all the dead bodies are buried and then, like, he wasn't on death row, but now Cassidy's put on death row again. He's gonna die for sure now, and it's all Eddie's fault, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Like I was like, whoa, where did this come from? I thought he was already on death row, but I guess he wasn't.
Oh, okay, so he wasn't.
I guess not to start.
Yeah, honestly,
It was so confusing. They skirted way around it.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, so he's gonna die now, and that whole relationship, it was just weird seeing them interact. But what was more off-putting is that I thought when we first saw Venom and Eddie that they were gonna actually be anti-heroes, like they hinted at the end of the last movie. But I feel like their characters regressed a little bit. Like they're still having growing pains again.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then like they end up splitting up halfway through the movie. I'm like, oh, okay, he loses his powers, whatever. But like, I thought they were gonna be a whole anti-hero team already. Like I don't know. I didn't assume that they were gonna be fully fleshed out, but I didn't think they were gonna go this route. How did you feel about that? Were you cool with it, or did it work for you?
So honestly, I went into this
No expectation.
Not remembering the first Venom very well. So then, and also having low expectations. For me, I didn't really think about what happened previous.
Fair enough.
So
maybe that's how they felt about it too. So like maybe it's just like a super soft reboot for them.
Yeah.
They're like, we're just gonna do Carnage and we'll have what happens. There was a lot of Easter eggs and pokes towards, like it felt very Maguire with the whole church thing at the end and the bell. I'm like, that definitely like feels like Raimi's Spider-Man 3, you know, like with the church bell separating them and all that. And it's just like the whole movie felt like, how can we make them fight? I'm like, okay, that was cool. But there was a lot of comedy. The comedy actually worked a lot better for me in this movie. Like Mrs. Chen getting Venom and Venom going to some rave was kind of funny. Like they made that work that it was a costume party.
Yeah, I think that was maybe one of the more awkward.
It was a little awkward. Like I get it. Venom's comedy worked. It's just the situations they put him in was kind of like weird at times. So I was like, all right. He almost had like a coming out moment, and everyone was like, yeah, good for you. He's like actually an alien. I loved Eddie's trying to write off his seemingly schizophrenic tendencies. Like whenever he would talk to like prison guards, he was like, no, I'm just getting ready, I'm just practicing.
Right.
And he like screamed at that one lady, and she's like, excuse me, and he was like, no, I don't have an explanation for that. The chicken stuff and the chocolate stuff was funny. I didn't think I thought it was a little cheap rehashing kind of most of the same beats from the first movie though, like especially with his ex getting she goes back to Dan, right, and they're gonna get married or whatever, they're engaged. And I was like, oh, it breaks his heart, that sucks. But then like literally she gets captured again, which for the villains it makes sense, but for like from a story writing, I was like, again, like the same damsel in distress thing. I was like, come on now, y'all can do better than this. I don't know. I think they just wanted to see that big fight scene at the end. Again, Venom's humor works so well towards the end. He's like, oh shit, it's a red one. Like, he's like, what does that mean? No, those are nasty. I don't want to fight those. Yeah. And that brings me to another question. Why doesn't Venom have more powers? Is it because he hasn't met Spider-Man? Or like?
Yeah, that was something that I found really weird. Was that it seemed like Carnage was a little more creative with his abilities.
And really OP too.
Yeah.
Like spikes and like maces and like, I don't know, kinds of blades and stuff.
Yeah, I would have liked them to kind of invest in an explanation for that.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was a little all over the place with...
like the rules, if you would?
Yeah, the rules of like... And they didn't really go into a strong characterization of Carnage either.
Yeah.
And it felt like there could have been a lot more just overall with the development of each symbiotes.
The whole movie felt like a mad dash to just the ending fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
And they really hinted at it, especially the after credit scene, which we'll get to. Like the whole, let me show you a sneak peek of like 6 billion years of hive mind symbiote knowledge.
Right.
And it's like, well, where's that then? Like, I know you're trying to get us, like, you're trying to ease the general audience into all this, but it's like, that would have been great. That would have explained why does this offspring, this red Carnage symbiote suddenly so much more overpowered than like even the yellow ones or the blue ones of the past, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. And then there's a whole lot of...
It is weird because he came from them.
Right.
He's
like offspring, if you would. Asexually reproduced,
Yeah, by the blood of...
Eddie
Tom.
and...
Yeah, of Eddie. Right.
And then the symbiote of Venom, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so Cassidy bit him, and then that's how it happened. Which, I thought it was hilarious how Venom was the one that lashed out at Cassidy instead of Eddie.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? I was like, really? Because they had to make it happen somehow.
Yeah.
So I get it, but I was just like, really? I was like, all right, I guess he has to get the Carnage symbiote somehow. That prison break scene was pretty entertaining. That's another thing I almost forgot to bring up. How did you feel about the rating? Because I honestly, like my brother was talking about earlier, I felt like they were hinting at a rated R. Like, okay, they saw the green light from Deadpool and Deadpool 2. I thought they were gonna go with a rated R rating, and we're gonna see some actual carnage. But it feels like they really put the nerve suppressor on all of the gore. You know what I mean? Did that help or hurt it in your opinion?
I don't know. I think it kind of depends because I thought the action was pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at it, I mean, I've only seen it once.
Right.
But from what I can remember, I thought overall it was done well. But yeah, I think there was something missing, definitely.
I just felt like it was so satisfying, and we're supposed to play up Cassidy as this crazy psychopathic killer, right? And he's gonna take people's heads off, or he's gonna use the Carnage tongue to like go in there and like eat someone's brain or whatever using his tongue, right? And it's just like they cut away, or like and like you just see like some corpse, the tropes of cutting away, and I'm just like, it would make it more menacing and like more of like a force to be reckoned with, if we actually saw the the outcome, the results of all that, and not just kind of like, oh, we're gonna cut away now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I get, why they had to do it. They wanted the widest audience and, all the kiddos to come see it and all the money. They don't want, people clutching the pearls and cover your eyes, Timmy, cover your eyes. I get it. But, like, I don't know. I want someone to go crazy. So, hopefully they can put up their big boy pants going forward or something. We'll see.
Yeah, it seemed like overall they were a little hesitant to play up the card of Carnage.
Exactly. Like, they didn't mind leaning into comedy at all, which is one thing. And, like, they didn't mind leaning into all the drama and whatnot, but just when it came down to it, like, it was just very safe. Like, it was really conservative in some areas, and I was like, man, y'all need to, like, let the Carnage do some Carnage, man. And that's pretty much, the movie in a nutshell. There were some really good parts. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of great comedy in it. That's what I really loved about it the most. That was the strongest for me. Of course, the ending, I mean, the end credit, the mid-credit scene, everyone bananas for in the theater, and if you've seen it, you know why. We finally get confirmation of the crossover between, Venom's universe into the main MCU with Spider-Man, right? Mm-hmm. And so his capacity and No Way Home, I have no idea if it's going to be big or small. I'm feeling at this point with everything that's coming out, it's feeling pretty crazy. It's feeling a little stuff. So I don't know if it's just going to be more of a cameo or if there's going to be like a pivotal scene with it. I'm game for either as long as they do it right. Mm-hmm. What would you like to see out of that crossover? Because I heard that they might just do their own movie down the line. They're just teasing that. Like, not a Spider-Man movie, not a Venom movie, but them together movie. You know what I mean?
Right. I definitely think that should be the route that they take, where they hold off on that whole crossover. I think the potential of the multiverse being open...
No, basically, I agree with what you're headed towards, isn't that... With the multiverse cracked wide open, there's not necessarily a rush. You know what I mean? They don't need to do the biggest, largest stakes, the deepest character moments between those two immediately in No Way Home. They can, they could push it off. They could save it for their own movie. They can have a little bit in one movie, a little bit in their other movie. They have plenty of crossover opportunities, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what that looks like. I'm looking forward to seeing how they develop Eddie and Venom's character. Because at first I thought, okay, they're just merging them, right? This is just an excuse to merge everyone in the same universe, kind of like Elseworlds did with the DC on TV a few years back. Yeah. But I was like, well, maybe they don't do that. Maybe because the things are still like hairy with Sony and MC, like the Marvel and Disney. Maybe they want to keep their own little worlds, right? And then whenever they're playing nice, well, we can cross over. Otherwise, you're gonna have to wait your turn, and we'll see what happens. They take it year by year at this point, is what it feels like. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely. So. My hope is that they do it right, and they're not afraid to get crazy with it as it comes down the line. Because I know Sony's trying to make I know they have like the Morbius movie coming, and they're trying to do a Sinister Six thing, but that kind of feels like what they're doing in No Way Home. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to pump them out.
Yeah, I think maybe this is a sign of like Sony's hand in the pot. Yeah. And I'm interested to see how much of a handle does Sony have, and how much of a handle does the MCU Kevin Feige on that.
I'm intrigued to see that too, because even though the beginning of Venom Carnage said, it made an association with Marvel, which is true, I'm like, didn't feel like Marvel had too much of a hand in this movie, because I'm like, didn't feel like that much of a Marvel movie. Yeah. But it is what it is. The theater went nuts, and I saw that, and I was like, we gotta go see this movie. And so we saw it again. Well, I saw it again that night. And I think that left everyone leaving the movie with a real sweet taste in their mouth. Mm-hmm. But if you take off the rose-tinted glasses and you look at the movie objectively, then your rating kind of falls down, because you're like, well, it was okay. It was very acceptable. Yeah. Hopefully they do better in the future. It wasn't dog crap. It was an improvement, but yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like Sony knew what they did right, but they didn't know how to improve upon.
Expand upon?
Yeah, like add to it. Like they didn't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
Better than they did the previous.
Right. Like, they focused on what they know they could do right, which is the comedy and, of course, a little bit of the drama.
But like as far as like they didn't want to touch the Carnage, you know, and they didn't want to try and do too much more of the lore and the world building. They wanted to tease at it, but they wanted to milk it for everything they had.
Yeah.
So it was a conservative play on their end, and it probably paid off because I mean, just slam dunk for them. I'm sure this movie made crazy money. I didn't even bother checking, but it did.
Yeah. I think it opened bigger than the last Venom movie.
I believe it. 100%. 100%. I believe that.
That's crazy.
Man, and that's during COVID times. So props to them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But overall, yeah, it's more enjoyable than it is not. But I feel like they leave a lot to be desired, and so hopefully they can pick up on that in the future. So I'm needing them, but we'll see.
Yeah.
With that, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll be back. And we're back with our review of What If Episode 9, the finale, and it's adequately titled "What If the Watcher Broke His Oath." We've been joking around all season, but they saved it for the last episode. It's finally here. So the Watcher steps in because the multiverse is at stake, Big Apple. And who else? By none other than last episode's What If Ultron won. So we've talked about this briefly before, and I'll just bring it up one last time, in that it seems, and they even addressed it in this episode, that they need to figure out what the rules are for these Infinity Stones, because I don't think live action is going to touch them for a while, since we already just left the Infinity Saga. But like even in a later fight scene, we have Ultron being like bested by someone else, evil Doctor Strange, if you would, with another time stone from a different universe.
Right.
And even Ultron has this line, well, like, hey, you stupid sillies, like every universe is a little bit different, so the Infinity Stones are a little bit different when they try breaking them. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that's really cool and all, but this is almost broken. And it leads to an argument that other people made, okay, why are these the multiverse guardians, right? Or the guardians of the multiverse. Right, and it's because, I didn't know this, but the Watcher has this foresight. He can actually see the future, or at least he saw this outcome, right? Of these particular people being able to not defeat Ultron per se, but like, well, him, but like be able to just put a stasis to it, put a pause on the conflict, and at least contain it. That was the whole thing, right? So I'm jumping ahead, I'm jumping around, but I thought that was really interesting because this can happen once. How many more times can this happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how many? I mean, as many seasons as they want. If that's going to be the trope, at the end of every season, the multiverse is going to break, and they have to assemble everyone they met. But I'm like, that's crazy. You can't have like. Yeah. Can you have infinite pocket dimensions? All these people who are just like bad hombres who need to be like contained. I thought that was interesting. But let's go back to the top, Big Apple. Let's go back to how we have the opening sequence, and it's with Captain Carter and. Luckily, throughout these sequences, we're getting to see what happened to everyone in the previous episodes. Mm-hmm. Even the unaired Gamora and Tony Stark on Sakaar episode. And we see kind of like the same things are happening in Captain Carter's life as in like our MCU Captain America 2 timeline. Yeah. Sort of. With a twist. And we see her taking down, what was it, Batroc, right? Mm-hmm. George St. Pierre came back to voice him, I believe, right?
Yeah, he did. I didn't expect that at first.
I didn't expect that either. I thought it was just like a really bad impression of him, and I was like, wait a second.
Especially when it came to like the grunts.
Yeah, I was like,
it fell a little off.
I guess some people aren't voice actors, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's not.
So. Okay. There you go. That explains it. But you know, they have the whole beat. They're like, okay, put down the shield. Let's go for a fight. Right. And then boom, sure enough, the Watcher shows up and is like, okay, you've been chosen. Same thing. We got T'Challa rescuing Peter Quill from his dad, Living Planet Ego. We have the Watcher stepping in to see like Gamora and call on Gamora, but not Tony with his cool armor. I was like, all right. Mm-hmm. And same thing, Killmonger, who was like laid waste to Wakanda and is seconds away from like being defeated by Shuri and Pepper. I was like, whoa, okay. And then he chooses to summon him, and I was like, him? Really? Kind of a villain, but all right. Yeah. In his own way. And finally, Party Thor, of all the Thors you could pick from the multiverse, gets picked too. And I was like, all right, let's see what happens. And like, only because we've seen all these people's stories, I feel like is what we're getting them. Mm-hmm. And of course, Doctor Strange is there. They have all the little jibs and jabs in the bar. And so far, I'm like, okay, this episode's chugging right along. There's some cool comedy stuffed in there, but you could tell like the timing. They have to like chop it all down. Did you know these episodes were supposed to be like 42 minutes long?
Yeah, I heard about that after watching this. That they were apparently supposed to be that long, and the additional Gamora episode.
Right, and then all production delays and COVID and stuff, they had to chop it way down, which in some ways, you know, was helpful for some episodes. Like, I thought that the Killmonger episode was super tight. Like, the pacing was great. But in other episodes, it just felt, in the kind of times in this episode, it felt a little bit rushed. Like, jokes were cut off. Like, they're like, we're going to the next thing. We gotta move. And I was like, I want to enjoy this. Let me bask in this epic finale. But of course, so much is going on. Everyone's assessing the situation. Basically they get to the little plot. Gamora has this like thing. I'm assuming Tony Stark helped her design with that little
I guess
Infinity Stone Crusher.
Yeah, that's what they called it.
I think that's what they called it, right? The Infinity Crusher, I think they called it. And I was like, okay, cool. I guess they're gonna destroy them or reduce them to atoms, whatever. That's cool. I was like, we'll see how this works out. And then evil Doctor Strange puts this crazy magic spell on all of them. They're goofing and gaffing. The evil Doctor Strange is making horrible speeches. They're all just pissing off until like Thor makes too much noise, and then boom, it's time for action. The Watcher, not the Watcher, Ultron's there. Right. And I'm like, this is about to get spicy. And we see a lot of cool things. I really thought it was cool how I don't know how, but like I guess using his magic, Doctor Strange was able to make like a ton of Mjolnirs and like encase Ultron in them. I thought that was super tight.
Cool. Yeah, anytime they play around with
combos.
Yeah, the combos, especially with Doctor Strange, I feel like they do that really well.
They do that super well. I mean, because there's I feel like there's pretty much infinite potential. You can write whatever and attribute it to his magic. You know what I mean? Oh, I mean, he had like dragons at one point. He had all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, he had the tentacles shooting out of his
body. Dude, I mean, that big tentacle monster in the big fight in the end, when it was like freaking kaiju versus like a giant Ultron, that was tight. So there was a lot of good fan servicey moments. Even Ultron brought he didn't bring. He had to fight off the zombies that were brought back, and then zombie Wanda. I wish they had more time to fight him. He just kind of nuked the planet to take care of her, and I was like, sheesh. I guess not.
What I like about this version of Ultron is that he's very decisive. Like he's very much straight to the point. Like you saw that in the first episode where he was introduced, where he cut Thanos straight in half.
Like no question, no banter, none of that. Because I think that's attributed to the fact that he didn't have like Tony Stark as a dad. It feels like or whatever. You know what I mean? It was just down to business immediately. They didn't bother with infecting all these people. I mean, all these people putting their hands on who Ultron should and shouldn't be. You know what I mean? But however it worked out, however it shook out, he was like the most logical, business, all business. And so, like you said, he was just decisive, whatever. And then the Guardians, they have a little scuffle, and then they have to they try and I think they end up swiping. Was it Black Panther? T'Challa, Star-Lord, swiped the sticky fingers, and he got the Soul Stone, and then they got out of there. And then they escaped the last standing Black Widow, and her last standing. She is the last standing person on her little universe. So that's what they end up. They get into a little scuffle. They realize they're on the same team. You know that trope. And I was like, okay, cool. This is but it doesn't take long for Ultron to show up, and everyone's doing a mad dash. It felt kind of like Infinity War at times. No, Endgame. Like where they're doing the mad dash for the gauntlet.
Oh right.
It felt like that. Like the Soul Stones, falling around. It's just on the floor, and everyone's getting beat up. That was cool. They did that really well. But everything's starting to wind down, and then they circle it back to Zola and that the USB virus stick, and I was like, okay, we're gonna put this back in play. And so sure enough, they end up doing that, and they have that little mindscape fight. How did you feel about that? I thought it was really tight to see that visualization.
Yeah, I thought that was that was cool seeing it. I thought maybe they would have done it similar to how they did it in Age of Ultron.
Right. Yeah.
But seeing their faces, that was cool.
Probably for animation, it was probably the easier way to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But plot twist. Killmonger gets his hands on the Infinity Armor, if you would, and he decides he's gonna try and make things right in his own way. And I was like, oh snap! Yeah. And everyone's like, put him down, boy, put him down. And then Zola was like, hold on, my friend, I am back. And I was like, hold up. And so they end up doing that that real Force thing. I'm like, okay, the Force is in the MCU, let's go. And no, I'm kidding, but I thought that was interesting that they had that little standoff. And it turns out that's what they're meant to do. And then Doctor Strange puts 2 and 2 together, and he encloses them in that pocket dimension. And then sure enough, he's like, you son of a gun, Watcher. That's what you wanted us to do the whole time, not beat him, but contain him. Right. So, they managed to save the day. And as penance, evil Doctor Strange is like, yeah, I'll keep an eye on them. And I'm like, man, this is getting really meta with the pocket universe inside the pocket universe. I was like, how many of these are there? Is the entire world a pocket universe, Big A? Let's get deep. Could be, man. What if we're just like a grain of sand on someone else's universe, bro? What if we're nothing? Anyway, existential crisis aside, everyone gets the return to the universe. Gamora gets the return and fight with Tony Stark. T'Challa gets to be Star-Lord in his world. Captain Carter, was like, man, why can't I get my happy ending with Steve Rogers? He's like, sorry, kiddo. Your universe needs you to be Captain Carter. And then, surprise, surprise, he's there, but in a suit of armor from the first episode. Right. So we got a Hydra stomper, but controlled by Hydra now.
I guess so.
That's really meta. But how do you feel about that plotline? They're going to expand upon it. They have to.
I would think so. Yeah.
There's no way they doused him with secret soldier serum, right? How have they been keeping him alive all these years? Is he going to come out and be 100 and something? Or
yeah, I wonder. they could go as dark as keeping him dead
Ooh,
and then inside.
that would be rough.
That would be rough.
But I don't think the Watcher would do her like that. Because the Watcher, I don't know, I feel like he insinuated, like, you'll get your happy ending, but you got to keep fighting, like, in your present time.
You think so?
I mean, that's the way I read it.
He's playing it as, like, you have your place in this universe.
And you need to, like, just...
You just got to go. You just got to go there.
That would be rough. I don't think they go that dark. Well,
because at the end of the day, like, he's still trying to, like, keep his hands as far away from
like, affecting things. Like, same thing with Black Widow. He's like, well, I can't rebuild your universe, right? But, like, I could put you somewhere where you're needed. And then you gotta fall back to, I think it was episode 3, when basically Loki was, like, taking over.
Oh, right.
When all the Avengers died, and Loki was taking over, and, all you had was, like, Captain Marvel, and then Nick Fury, and whoever else, didn't get murdered in that little what-if mystery episode.
Yeah.
And, so Black Widow, Nick Fury out the gate knows, okay, yeah, like, you're not my widow, but, you'll do. And so I was like, that's cute. She got, like, a kind of a happy ending, cleaning up that world. Do you think we're going to see all of them again? Or as I think one of the showrunners was talking about how they're going to start bleeding into more Phase 4 stuff in the next season.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're trying to work with the Eternals and
I think Shang-Chi, I think they're going to do something like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool. I'm excited for all that. Is there anyone you have a personal preference to stick around? Like, I know for sure Captain Carter is probably going to stick around.
Yeah.
But, like, do you have any favorites from the season or not really? Or
Not really. I mean, I feel like they worked best with Killmonger. I thought they did pretty good.
We're not seeing that version again, I don't think.
Nah, probably not. He is stuck in that
little jail.
Little orb.
Little pocket dimension. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think they're planning on more new stories rather than continuing the old ones right away.
Of course, yeah.
But no, I don't know.
What's one storyline you haven't seen yet in live action that you would like to see, even if it's only a what if episode?
Maybe like a Planet Hulk.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I want a World Breaker Hulk. That's what I want to see. I want to see him go ape. Yeah, and just like bust planets in half and destroy people. That's what I want to see. If we can get that in a what if episode, I'll be satisfied. But yeah, lots of feels, lots of joys, lots of teasing going on. Hey, one quick little Easter egg that since we didn't do episode 8, did you catch that there was like a Mustafar reference? Because that's what my brother was talking about. He said, one of the, like when they're going through and Captain America was the president in one of those timelines, they're punching through all those timelines. Apparently there was like a lava world that was like supposed to reference Mustafar, like from Star Wars 3.
Oh, okay.
Episode 3, I mean.
Yeah. No, I didn't catch that.
But I mean, we'll check it out later. But I think, I was like, what does that insinuate? Do you think that's just like, if it's true, do you think it's just a wink and a nod towards like, hey, Disney owns both of them now? Or do you think like, wouldn't that be crazy if that was a what if episode that like Star Wars is in the same universe as the MCU?
I wonder if they would allow each other to cross.
I don't think so. I think it's too muddy, right? Or maybe if they did like a one shot type deal, or like it's extremely, that's like a what if movie, like it's just purely what if, all animated.
Yeah.
I think that would be tight if they can execute it right.
That'd be pretty.
That'd be crazy. What would the plot be? I don't know, but it would be crazy.
Maybe the Guardians.
That would be tight. The Guardians meet like Star Wars characters.
Yeah.
God, you see like Star-Lord with his lightsabers. Like, whoa. No, I don't know. That'd be crazy. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we get back, we're gonna talk about more Star Wars Visions, episode 3 and 4. And we're back with our review of Visions, episode 3. In this episode, Big Apple, the story revolves around a set of immensely powerful dark side twins. They're created by Sith cultists with the power of the dark side imbued with the strength from a large kyber crystal. Now, accepting the cultist purpose for this life, they set out to dominate the galaxy, and as we learn throughout the course of the episode, the female sister takes this way more seriously than the male twin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're building like a giant hyper cannon that's powered with the dark energy that created them. They have these suits that like take a toll on them. And there's all this great Star Wars lore going on. The brother, is basically trying to save the sister, right?
Right. Yeah. He got a vision.
He had a vision about that she was gonna die, right, from the use of her, from her suit or whatever.
Yeah. He got some kind of force.
Like vision, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, foresight.
Foresight, there you go. And I thought it was crazy because they started fighting in space, and I was like, okay, how are they breathing? I know they're dark side, but come on now, you can't be just throwing people off the side of a ship in space. And it goes crazy. He's got his little R duo, I think he called him, and he's flying around with his little X-Fighter trying to escape, and she's not having it. She's overpowered. She's using the Force to take that kyber crystal out of the ship or whatever he had, and they get this wacky idea that they're fighting. First of all, it goes crazy. She has I was reminded of Dr. Octopus or meets General Grievous. She has 8 like
Oh,
tentacle lightsabers and they're going crazy. I was like, what is this? And you think he has just the one, right? And he's just like, and he pops it out. And he makes his own lightsaber, and they just go at it. And basically, the big climax at the end was in like they go into hyperdrive, and they kind of do that thing they did in I think it was Star Wars Episode 7 or 8. I think it was 8.
Where they hold back the.
That too. No. It's when like he goes through the ship and it goes in half, and it's like.
Oh,
and it's like the hyperdrive. That was a great visual to see again, even in animation.
Yeah, that was cool.
But other than that, like I like these I like these what ifs. I keep calling them that, but they're visions, right? I like these episodes when their excuses are just to have a really badass fight scene, because that's kind of like what I get the most out of these from. Because since none of it's canon, I'm not like too invested in any of them. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So I don't know. Like that's really what stood out to me. I thought it was cool. The fighting was cool. The animation was great. I really appreciated this art style. It reminded me of this anime called Kill la Kill. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
No,
it's super like it can be exaggerated at times, and like it was just everything worked with it. The fight worked with it really well.
Yeah, it was really nice and clean.
Yeah, super polished
and very vibrant too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the logic was crazy, but it was just a fun time to watch. So it was a pretty good episode. One of the stronger ones for me in terms of fighting and visuals. But it is what it is. Any final thoughts on that one?
For me, I don't think it was like the storyline was kind of pretty basic.
Yeah, a lot of these are. I'm noticing.
Yeah, they are.
They're kind of tropey.
Right along to the 4th episode, real quick. This one is it feels more slice of lifey, because literally it begins with a newlywed couple wandering through the forest, and the bride is sat atop a chair on the groom's back. They're bound to go to some sacred place, is what they're talking about, right? They go up a side of a cliff. They happen upon a large structure in the pair called Magina, I think is how they called it. Anyway, as they both touch the rock, it brings forth the planet's memory. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So in the wake of the war, the separatists have completely stripped this beautiful place of its resources, which was remembered by a couple of travelers who eventually, get to show, like they eventually get to show that they're involved in the wedding celebrations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the planet is on the brink of collapse, right? There's a battle droid army en route. Peru is sacrificing herself as a bride to keep the peace between the factions. Very standard warfare stuff, the politics and all that. So only her sister Saku is not exactly thrilled with the idea. They want to fight back. They want to rise up. And on the morning that the droids arrive, Saku is captured and looks to be executed in front of her for trying to ambush the evil dudes or whatever. And the bullet stopped midair by that mysterious masked warrior from the beginning of the episode. And so she decides to fight the Sith. And so this woman happens to be a Jedi armed with a yellow saber. And I was asking my brother about that because I'm not really well versed in all the colors. And it was my understanding that a yellow saber was someone like a Jedi who hasn't fully learned or has been in tune with the Force yet or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Like they're kind of neutral in a way.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is that what's going on? And he was like, no, it's this and this and that. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. But the point was, it looked like a samurai sword or something. Right?
Yeah, it did.
It looked pretty tight.
I assumed that maybe that was
stylistic choice.
Yeah. Just upon the fact that it's an anime.
Of course, yeah. And I just thought it was tight to look at. And she she goes after Lord Izuma, the evil man in charge, and like in one swift move, she stops him from hurting Haru or any of the other villagers. And I'm like, yes, cool fight scene. And so, the threat's thwarted, and the pieces are stored on the planet, and she prepares to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a pretty simple episode, and some of them can be like that. And not all of them blew me away, but like I said, I sit here for like the action. So when they're more calm and tamer, I'm like, okay, that was nice. So like, what else you got? So that's how I feel about a lot of these. Like, we'll see going forward which ones capture our imagination, but we'll probably swing for those, I think, going forward. Because there's one I'm really interested to talk about. I was saying earlier, I think it was 6 or 7, but it's like action, like through and through. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it's really good. So there's like twists and stuff. That one felt pretty like Star Wars to me. I was like, okay, wow, like that did a good job of blending, anime tropes and like that kind of style with like something that would actually happen in a Star Wars property, or if you would, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to talking about. But the rest, we'll see how they go.
How did you feel about this episode? Pretty standard fare for you, or?
Yeah. It was a pretty standard story again, but overall, like what I like most about this one, the 3rd and the 1st episode, was that they really tie in the same things that are traditionally found in like Japanese samurai movies.
Gotcha.
And I like how they use those as a tether to what the Jedi are.
I like that, yeah. I didn't think of it like that, but that's really tight. I think it lends itself to that a lot, you know what I mean? That it's not hard to make that kind of leap, So I think they really prepared us with that in the 1st episode, especially.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? How, like, even though good or evil, like there's a Tether that could be made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know. So I agree. That was really cool, and I'm looking forward to see how they go in the future. We're gonna find out, Big Apple. From Media Munchers, I'm Nathan.
And I'm Adrian.
And we'll catch you next time.